This is Matt from Game Domain, and here's a review of this year in indie video games. Now, last year was a great game for indie games, and this year has been a great game for games in general. And indie games are no exception. Despite some fierce competition, we've narrowed it down to just 10. Nidhogg isn't a complicated game. This year's Nidhogg II isn't either. Nidhogg II takes 2D fighting games and strips them down to a real-time rock-paper-scissors fought with swords, knives, and bows and arrows. The colorful graphics support the tone of the game, and the new, varied map helps mix things up a bit. But at its core, it's still a pretty straightforward game. Nidhogg II isn't going to defy any gaming conventions. It's not going to challenge you to learn its secrets. It's not going to be exalted as high art. There's no great life lessons in it. It's just a fun thing to do while you and a few friends hang out together for a few hours. At their most basic, that's really what games are. A way to have fun with other people, and Nidhogg II doesn't forget about that. Number 9. Night in the Woods is a story about a woman unraveling and about a town unraveling. It's about the difficulties of adulthood intruding on idyllic childhoods built on the backs of our parents' painstaking curation. The adorable art and funny, ironically human dialogue make it a fun experience even while the player is aware of the unpleasantness just beneath all of that, and the adorable wolves are, well, still wolves. It's dark and serious without having to leverage violence at every turn, and by keeping death and injury in an environment with contrast, those things can still be treated as real consequences and real stakes. Number 8. Hollow Knight represents the best parts of Metroidvania games. It has the platforming, tight combat, and understated story most folks expect from the genre. As a plus, the art design and sound are top-notch. Anything that can immerse its audience in an underworld filled with crawling bugs without being too gross to keep that audience has made a real accomplishment. And Hollow Knight gives you that sense of accomplishment too. The story is understated, but the feeling of progress is impressed on the player from the upgrades and the unlocked areas, all the way down to the changes in the world as you go forward. Number 7. I don't know if anyone ever specifically requested a space roguelike with a splash of Hotline Miami's top-down frenetic mayhem, but I am glad Suspicious Developments thought of it and made Heat Signature. Heat Signature is hard, fun, and sometimes unforgiving, but it's a gem. The quick, varied action and the array of sci-fi tools challenge the player to really wrap their head around tactical scenarios on tight timelines, and give a real feeling of triumphant success when you can assemble teleporters and guns and explosives in just the right way to solve all your problems. At the higher levels, it doesn't coddle air, human or otherwise, and slapping mission restrictions like Never Be Seen onto procedurally generated ship maps occasionally gets exactly as frustrating as you'd imagine. But despite a few flaws, Heat Signature is an engaging game that just grips the problem-solving parts of your brain. Number 6. There's a certain honesty to sports games. You master the game's sporting analog skills, finish some tournaments, and become world champion. Then maybe you get to enter your initials. Golf Story does that while using golfing game mechanics you've probably seen before, but what it also does is create a wacky, fun world with its own eternal logic where your golfing skills do more than put golf balls into holes. The side quests, entertaining NPCs, and environments give context for the golfing, and the real fun is in those RPG elements. Golf Story is an entertaining adventure, role-playing sports game that casts a wide net, but it still knows exactly what it is. Number 5. A Hat in Time is a hub-based 3D platformer, which borrows a lot of inspiration from games like Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Galaxy. But the upgrades, platforming, and collectibles give it a solid gameplay that does more than age its predecessors. A Hat in Time sells itself on its tone. It's a cute game with an adorable protagonist and worlds with colorful, unique characters. The missions themselves can get a bit manic with stories about acting being followed by horror stories, but each one of those is neatly contained in the game's separate worlds. And it's all made with the same light-hearted kids tone that's just, well, so charming. A Hat in Time is a feel-good indie platformer, and if you need something like that in your life, you should definitely check it out. Number 4. Hellblade. Sunya's Sacrifice was famously made with the help of mental health professionals and people who are recovering from psychosis to better translate the protagonist's hallucinations and detachment from reality. Senua herself is a warrior determined to travel to the underworld to save loved ones she has failed. The third-person fighting and puzzles are fine game mechanics, but they're playing a supporting role to the themes of the game. Senua's journey into the underworld is about her determination, her doubts about the reality around her, and the heavy burden of guilt that she carries. The gnawing uncertainty, bombardment of voices from the past, and the drive to keep moving forward are amplified by her larger-than-life quest. But they still resonate with players who recognize the muted echoes of those influences on their own lives. Hellblade is a pretty good game, but it's an incomparable experience. Number 3. What Remains of Edith Finch exemplifies the artistic realm of walking simulators. The Finch family suffers a curse. Its members die, often when they're too young. Their home is a large estate, but each tragic death has left a room locked off. Over the years, new rooms have been haphazardly added to the house. As Edith Finch, the last member of the family, the player navigates this labyrinth of scabbed-over rooms and lives, learning the story of each death. Edith Finch has more interaction and immersion than most walking simulators. It also dispenses with the pretext of choice. By reviewing the lives of those who are already dead, there's no thoughts about changing the events that you're witnessing. The vivid images and believable stories make the strange house and minimalist video game interfaces fade into the background. The lives and deaths of the people feel real, and they feel important, and that has made What Remains of Edith Finch such an exceptional game. Number 2. PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds is based on Arma 2 and the cult classic film Battle Royale. Instead of traditional kill points or territory, PUBG features 100 players all competing to be the last person standing on top of a constantly shrinking battlefield. It's got everything: first-person shooting, leveraging map knowledge, and decisions between risky exploration and safe sneaking. And while doing that, all of it is set against the backdrop of a strategic countdown timer. It's the model of a modern first-person shooter. As a bonus, it also looks good to watch. In a time when so many developers are working to procedurally generate compelling narratives, PUBG creates stories from humans to make it a great spectator sport and thrilling to participate in. And number 1, Cuphead. Is it beautiful? Check. Responsive controls? Check. Great level design? Check. Memorable and challenging boss battles? Check. Cuphead has all of these things it needs to be a good game. The original concept and the gameplay that makes beating it instill a real feeling of accomplishment would easily make it the best game of the year. It takes high-quality games a step further by doing something genuinely remarkable, though. Cuphead teaches you how to learn. It's not a game about split-second reactions and hand-eye coordination. You have to have some of that to play it, but it's not about that. Cuphead is about a pattern recognition and learning to beat each boss. You can't simply play the way you want and rely on your reflexes to save you. You have to die. You have to lose. And you have to reevaluate your strategy and look at the game in a way that you wouldn't do naturally. You have to question and undergo the hard process of unlearning your assumptions and forcing yourself to try new things and see new perspectives in order to beat the game. Now, we've mentioned a few times that video games often teach arbitrary skill sets, usually in a rewarding way, but Cuphead transcends that by teaching you to assume there is a way to beat challenges in life, and that victory is a matter of persistence and self-examination. There are a lot of games out there that try to challenge you, but present impossible or irrational challenges. Worse, there are games out there that fail to challenge you at all, and pretend to protest your success before telling you how special you are for beating them. Cuphead is the stern but fair parent of gaming, and that puts it head and shoulders above its competitors for 2017. Here at Game Domain, we try to get a good sampling of indie games, but there are so many that we tend to miss a few. If there's a particularly great indie game that we miss, please let us know in the comments below or via our Twitter @RealGameDomain. And remember, if you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep playing.